We've got a lot to talk about on the economy today, a lot that people really need to understand. I have to convince my wife now to take what remaining money we have in the stock market out of the stock market while it's up today. And there's just a lot going on, when it comes to the economy and inflation. And I don't think people understand yet. This is just beginning. Just beginning. Janet Yellen said, I was, whoopsie, got that one wrong. But first I said there was no inflation. Then I said it was nothing to worry about. Then I said it was transitory. Then I said, okay, there's some inflation, and now I go, dear mother of God, what have we done? Jeez.
Did you see this clip of, I think it's, I should know, of course, it is Peter Doocy, because he's the only one who ever asks any difficult questions to the White House spokesperson. But the new White House spokesperson, which we should know, it is Pride Month, and this spokesperson happens to be LGBTQ2IA plus, and etc.
That is so good,
and it's so important for you to know that in this particular month of Pride Month.
Yeah, no, it is.
I mean, she totally would have been hired if she was not LGBTQIA2 plus.
No, I don't think so.
No, I mean 100%.
No, I don't.
Definitely
think so.
the best person from the job, independent of her sexuality or color of her skin.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with that. You just independently. This is the best person in America to just has the mastery of every issue. Now, yeah, sure, she has to look down and read every single answer to every question, but that has nothing to do with it. It's just individual mastery of this material. That's the reason she has this job.
Yeah.
And she was asked by Peter Doocy, I know Vladimir Putin is most of this inflation, but is any of it your responsibility?
Hang on, listen to this. Here it is.
Issue.
And you just mentioned Putin a few times as a reason for recent inflation. Do you guys think that any part of inflation this year is because of President Biden's spending plans, or is it all Putin's fault?
Well, what I can say is we are, and Brian just spoke to this, we are at a historic place when it comes to the economy.
Oh, it's historic.
When it comes to unemployment being at the lowest that we have seen in some time. When it comes to the president creating more jobs in his first term, his first year, than any other president.
Because no one was going to work. Everything was closed down.
We told you, you can pause it. We told you, hey, guys, you're not allowed to go to work. All of the businesses need to close. And now he's adding jobs like crazy from that compared to that era where people were literally not allowed by their employer to come to work, where demand was depressed artificially in a way that we've never seen in world history. But let's take credit for that. After arguing for the closings, now let's take credit for the eventual openings.
By the way, so they're back in front of the courts arguing for the mask mandates to come back.
Oh, good.
Okay, so they just announced that yesterday. I don't know if anybody saw this from the CBO, which is always wrong when it comes to spending. Then they're always right when they're like, dear mother of God, what's happened? Okay? The Congressional Budget Office has just confirmed that President Joe Biden is blameworthy for the record high inflation that is punishing workers. Further, this nonpartisan source says that Biden's preferred fix, raising taxes, will only make the economy worse. The CBO's annual economic outlook adds further force to the arguments against Biden made by other Democrats, such as former President Barack Obama's National Economic Council Director Larry Summers. The CBO squarely blames Biden's 2021 COVID stimulus package for today's high inflation. The CBO noted that the stimulus checks were sent to every family and it significantly boosted demand. causing inflationary pressure on its own. But there's more. By paying workers not to work, Biden's COVID stimulus artificially slowed the recovery of labor force participation. So in other words, it's not the jobs he created, it's the jobs he stopped from being created. This lack of workers strained supply chains, thus providing a second source of upward pressure on prices. The CBO predicts that this Biden-caused inflation will persist into the next year, tempered only by the Federal Reserve's willingness to raise interest rates. And what does that do? What does raising the interest rate? It stops you from buying a house. It stops companies from taking out loans. It stops people stopping taking loans to start a new business. So that's their solution, gang. Biden also wants to make the economic situation worse, this according to the CBO, by repealing the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Speaking of which, the CBO is reporting that former President Donald Trump's signature tax bill had been a boon to both the economy and to the government coffers. According to the CBO, federal corporate income tax collections in 2017, before the rate cut, came in at $297 billion. By 2021, they had jumped to $372 billion, a 25% increase in taxes being delivered to the IRS in just 4 years, which significantly outpaces inflationary growth and amounts to a larger percentage of the overall economy. Tax cuts generated more tax revenue for the IRS. This is something we've talked about since about 2004.
It's long before that.
I mean, this program.
Right. I mean, and this happens. This has happened, by the way, within a few years of every single tax cut. Every single one of them. And what the left will do and the media will do will say, well, if you would have kept the tax rates higher, you would have even more
No, you
income.
wouldn't.
You might. But like,
You wouldn't.
Our goal is not to fund the government to levels never before seen. That should not be our goal as a society. Our goal isn't to give more money and more power to the government so we can have less. That is not our goal. You know, the fact that the government is taking in more dollars than it was a few years ago before the tax cut, it should show all of this panic that is constantly out there about tax cuts is fraudulent. This occurs every single time. All the times this thing happens. And yet every time there's a tax cut, we're told that we're going to run out of money, that we're not. We have a spending problem in this country, not a revenue problem. And you know, it's funny, Glenn, when they went through COVID, we spent multiple trillions of dollars because we told everyone they had to be home. And even with all that spending, there was a belief among a lot of economists that it wouldn't be this bad, right? It wasn't until Biden decided to spend $1.9 trillion more dollars after COVID and the worst of COVID had passed, and people were coming back to work, and demand was already showing that it was already ramping up. He then, after that, decided to spend $1.9 trillion and another trillion on infrastructure, by the way, which the Republicans are just as much to blame as Biden is for at least that chunk of it. And that is what has really fueled this inflationary period beyond what might have been expected from a real catastrophe.
Here's what I want you to know. Listen carefully to me, please. Can you imagine paying $1 per egg? $12 a dozen. If you can't imagine it, wait a few months, because this is what is happening. The USDA is now starting to predict overwhelming price increases. The highest predicted change in food costs in well over 40 years. The USDA is now warning in their revised May food price outlook that things are grim. Here it is. The first wave was December and January. Wave 2, March, April inflation. However, there is data now that there is a third wave, and it is double the prior 2 waves. The USDA predicts egg prices will increase by 19 to 20% from where they are right now. They also say there will be regions with much higher retail increases than that. 2 months ago, USDA had egg inflation at 2.5 or 3.5 year over year. So they've moved it from the high of 3.5 to a forward outlook of 20.5. Food at home, grocery store prices up 7 to 8% in the monthly review versus the April outlook of a rise of 5 to 6%. So when they say prices are going up, prices rose 8.1%. And there is no reason to think that the forecast will not rise again. If you look at the prices at the supermarket and how it's increased in the last 6 months, the USDA is now saying double that, and that's what you're looking for late this fall. We're going to have serious problems, because how do you even get to the grocery store if gas is $7 a gallon? How do people get from their farm into town at $7 a gallon? This is all a manufactured crisis. This is all because of what the government is doing. To quote Barack Obama, your prices will necessarily go up.
I believe the term was skyrocket, Glenn.
Thank you. This is a well-laid plan, and I will show you why they're doing it tonight, because I'll show you the second wave of control that is just around the corner, and the foundations are already laid. It's already in. So why would you need all of this infrastructure? Why would FEMA need to go from a react to a crisis to a prevent a crisis organization? And what does that even mean? And did you vote for it? Did you know it was happening? Tonight, 9 p.m., Blaze TV. Get it on Blaze TV with your subscription. You can watch the first part on YouTube, but we are going to be using what they would deem naughty terms. By the way, did you see that? What was one of the social media channels banned me for hate speech because I explained what was on the Hunter Biden laptop. Now that's being deemed hate speech. Get the information while you can. BlazeTV.com/Glenn. Use Bidenflation and save 20% on your year subscription.